delighted to have all of you here. Thank you for coming. I have with me a distinguished panel with different areas of interest in Africa and their point of view and perspective on, how we look at Africa and build a collective point of view. So first of all, I welcome to the panel Aloysius, who's an entrepreneur in Africa. It's the amount of funding that is coming in there. There's opportunity for entrepreneurship, and Aloysius, you represent that on the panel. So welcome. Thank you for joining this panel.
Yeah, thanks for inviting.
I also have with me Chanshad. So Chanshad, like most people who are doing business in Africa, lives in France, but drives business in Africa, and soon in the process of building a business relationship and building. He's the territory manager for HCLSoftware for Africa, so we'd like to hear his perspective, how he sees the market. I have with me also Dario De Barberi. Dario is the Chief Marketing Officer, Head of Marketing for HCLSoftware, and has played a significant role in Africa during his career, including helped one of the large tech companies establish their presence in Africa. So I've got Dario. He actually helped a large company, and the point of view that he used to establish business was sustainability. And he had an opportunity to get one of the vice presidents of the United States to Africa and get interested in driving the sustainability agenda there. And also we have our Chief Product Officer and the Global CTO of HCL Technologies, who has been scouting for markets all across the world to see where is it that we can build a symbiotic relationship between not only the markets presenting HCLSoftware opportunity, but also our ability to cultivate the market in a manner in which we can make contribution to society, help build this. And Africa therefore presents a great opportunity. A very interesting thing happened at the G20 summit in India, wherein the bloc of 54 nations was recognized as a bloc. And once we start looking at Africa, it actually presents itself with a force which is very strong. And, there are more than 1 billion people who live there. And the economy is $2.3 trillion in GDP. And if you look at the McKinsey study, it points out that there are 400 organizations that are $1 billion in size in Africa. And not only that, they're concentrated in few countries. That actually presents a phenomenal opportunity for businesses to come in and engage in Africa in a manner which not only creates a revenue opportunity for businesses, but also do it in a manner in which there can be a general upliftment and an engagement of African people in the world. So mobile technology is gaining ground, and it's amazing how economies have leapfrogged on account of mobility availability. Fintech is growing rapidly in Africa, and it starts happening the moment the economy opens. Two things start opening up. Finance, credit cards go through the roof, and so does retail go through the roof, and that's what we're seeing. Agri-tech, and Aloysius actually is associated with agri-tech. Actually, it's a very interesting area where things happen. Education, technology, inclusion, diversity. I mean, it's important that when you're making an engagement in IT today, you can actually bring in a large group of people into the stream. So at HCLSoftware, we see both an opportunity because we've got presence in Africa. We've got presence in Africa all across the continent, right from Morocco to Nigeria to Kenya to South Africa to central parts of Africa. We've got presence Congo. How do we take this into the next realm while serving this agenda is the topic of this discussion. So, so the person who actually leads this is Chanshad. So let me start off by asking Chanshad a question. Chanshad, I mean, we are a commercial enterprise with, with opportunities for business. So what are the challenges that you're seeing and the opportunity that you're seeing in the context of this new age digital economy, which actually serves as an equalizer all across the world? I mean, so.
Yes, it's a great question. We have two. I will split my answer in two sides. The first will be I will talk about challenge, and the second I will talk about opportunities. So, digital economy is the sector that Africa needs to pay a lot of attention, because this is the stage. It will help Africa to have more development and get more increase in different pillars that Africa have. I think we need first also to talk about the challenge that all these countries have. They have all one challenge. It is government need to pay to consider digital economy or tech like a sector, because this sector will help them to reinvent its growth, will help them to define how the way they will be successful in the future and build this future about Africa with a great story and be the place to be for everywhere in the world. And Africa is also central and vital for the welfare of the world, sustainability. We talk about a lot of things, and there's a lot of challenge. But in digital perspective, I can talk about few challenges because there's huge challenge. The first one is the infrastructure limitation that Africa has. And we know if we talk about digital, we need to have the sufficient infrastructure for that. We can talk also about cybersecurity. With the increase of number of e-commerce, payment mobile, all this technology coming in Africa, Africa needs to deploy the right strategy to protect his data, his content, everything. And we can talk about also EA. We can talk about, you say, this young population, the skill gap based on this digital skill gap on this young population. This is a challenge also. How Africa will make the good job to integrate, to share this vision about the future through technology with this young population. And we have also the economic inequalities that we have in Africa between North, South, etc. So the second part of my question is technology is filled with immense opportunities, immense huge opportunities. And before talking about opportunities, we need to talk about 2 points. The first point is how the government created this space, this environment to collaborate with companies and to understand how they can, build the right strategy and get this opportunity to the victory. Why I talk about this victory? Because the challenge first need to be done before we talk about strategy, opportunity, sorry. And we have also huge opportunities. The first one is the fintech. I heard previously that we talk about fintech, how the fintech involved in Africa, how the market has changed with the mobile payment, etc. And we have also the digital agriculture. I think we have people that can talk better like me about this. We have healthcare tech. We have sustainable, also renewable energy solution. We have opportunities for the digital innovation, I can say digital economy. This is an opportunity for Africa also. But all these opportunities need a collaboration between business and government. It's very important.
Thank you, John Shard, for an elaborate answer. Dario, I mean, you've been actually driving this agenda for the digital plus economy. You know, if you look at the trajectory of Africa over the last 5 years, how ready do you think the market is for absorbing the digitech? And
I think there is a huge evolution in the last 10 years, I would say, particularly in the last 5, where if you look at the core parameters for growth in any region, but particularly in Africa, what you see is that first, there is a greenfield in Africa where there is a huge opportunity for kind of starting from scratch, right? The ability to be able to start from almost new, but not really new. Then there is this layer of enterprise that have been stuck in digitalization in the old way, in the old-fashioned way, right? A long technology time. They kept it for too many years, and they're just ready to launch, right? But they just have not been able to afford that because there are skill gaps, there are security gaps, there are infrastructure gaps, there were data gaps. But on the right side and on the bright side, there are 2 trends that are happening that are actually quite very opportunistic for Africa. The first one is data centers and cloud is expected to grow 5x in just the next 2 years. So that's a huge, immense opportunity because that's really where the kitchen is, right? That's where everything is going to start happening because transactions and digitalization can actually start happening, moving from digital to digital plus or to this digital economy. That's the first trend. The second is connectivity. They all skipped completely the landlines in Africa, right? They went straight into mobile technology, and that accelerates the speed of consumption, the speed of transactions, digitalization of mobile payments, and that's growing at an amazing rate. Only by the end of next year, there will be a 50% penetration of 5G across Africa, which means that acceleration of consumption plus the acceleration of data center investment there, that's going to create kind of the perfect landscape for companies to start reinvesting again, right? So moving from very old technologies from the digital era to the digital plus economy era, where now they can skip some of the middle points and start utilizing AI. They can start utilizing cloud. They can start putting things together in a way they couldn't do before because there was no speed in connectivity. There was no infrastructure to be able to do that. So all these things coming together actually bring a huge opportunity for Africa now.
Awesome. In this environment, Aloysius, how do you see entrepreneurship and the support for entrepreneurship by the governments? And you are an entrepreneur, you have started a company. What kind of support mechanisms that you see that exist for you to create a business organically in Africa?
So I've been in entrepreneurship for like 15 years, right from college. And when we started, there was not a lot of government support at the time. So most of the time, if you're trying to, let's say, raise money, you have to get out of the continent to raise resources. There were not a lot of like Africa-focused like funds, at the very least. But so much has changed now. The continent has raised so much capital. 2022, we raised about 5 billion on the continent. Last year was about 3.5 billion. 10 years ago, that was not the case. We are seeing countries like Nigeria. They've passed the Startup Act. We've seen countries like Nigeria where they've taken an entrepreneur to become like a minister of information technology, where governments are passing regulations to allow startups to get tax breaks, and then leverage those tax breaks to create more jobs. So many interesting things are happening. There's also a lot of growth in consumption of more B2B software on the continent. B2C still has a long way to go. B2C, has a long way to go, mostly because the middle class is still very slim. It's growing, but it's still very slim. The bottom of the pyramid is still very big. So people usually don't pay for software B2C, but more and more businesses, even all the way to even informal small businesses, mom and pop shops, are beginning to pay for software directly and indirectly. 10 years ago, that was not the case, right? But because of what government has done, create like a great, conducive environment for businesses to, like, young entrepreneurs to start businesses, then offer more services to more and more people, on the continent. So, good things are happening in general. We're also seeing more local entrepreneurs, like more local investors also rising as well. So personally, the last 3 years, I've started investing into smaller businesses as well. All this because, the environment created the incentives for local, entrepreneurs, local investors to put money into new businesses. We're also seeing governments embrace more local solutions. In the past, they would rather go somewhere else to buy software. But let's take, for instance, in Ghana, we have something, we have our own version of Google Maps, but it creates digital addressing system for anyone. It was built locally, government adopted it. All payment across government. So let's say if I want to pay for my passport, pay for my driver's license, I pay digitally, and I use a local solution that the government has adopted. So we are seeing a shift in posture of government to adopt local solutions. We are seeing a posture of government to create enabling environment for people who start businesses to have tax breaks. We are seeing government passing regulations to encourage local investment, so people should put money into startups instead of moving the money overseas. So those are all good things in general, but I would say those things started gradually. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that was not the case, but a lot of it happened in the past 5-6 years. Yeah.
Thank you, Lascious. So KK, at HCLSoftware, there's a whole range of offerings that we have, across the 4 pillars that offer, application opportunities and opportunities for businesses to use our software. But there is again, another big opportunity where I want to get your view in terms of how you look at Africa, is in terms of enabling creation of a workforce for building mobile applications or mobile technology, or leveraging people in different parts of Africa to create technology for us for Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've been working on several interesting models of this collaborative engagement with clients. So do you see such opportunities across the 4 pillars of our work and the 4 cloud strategy in Africa?
So when I look at Africa, and I roll back way back in late 90s and early 2000 of what happened in the Indian subcontinent. So the whole build out of this whole technology infrastructure to really enable business or government to citizen, business to business, business to consumers. I think some of those fundamental building blocks have already been established, as Dario talked about in his session, in his comment. I really see one is, as you're building it in a greenfield environment, the first thing is that you need to really have a strong capability on infrastructure, security, automation, because you could do things fundamentally different. You don't want to do what the world did. Correct? Many of the times you look up to the West and say, should I follow that model? Absolutely not, because where they started, where you started, are completely different. So hence, AI ops, automation first, things like that, where people don't need to spend cycle of time. That's one thing which they should really look at. Second thing is this whole, because the economy is built around mobile, finally it's all about building micro apps, single apps super apps or whatever, different applications, and hence enabling a new way to build applications, compose applications, correct? And I think as Aloysius talked about, the way the pyramid is structured, there is a significant ability to uplift a part of the population by providing citizen development, low code, no code kind of capabilities to really start to build apps. Because end of the day, if you want to really become a digital infrastructure, and some of the learnings which we could take from what has been built in the India stack, correct? If you could build fundamental core infrastructure, and governments can do that, and now there's a significant amount of government collaboration, then it's easy to build apps because someone else is solving the complex problems. The third thing I think is a unique opportunity in this is around the whole data landscape, Rajiv, because most of the people are worried about data being created and not able to manage data. If you're starting now, you could plan data engineering at the core. You could think about how you will consume, create, process, store, and retrieve data. You don't want to do all the mistakes which has been done over the last 40 years across different parts of the world. That's the third thing. And the fourth is this whole layer about how do you enable new way to do commerce, correct? New way to do marketing, new way to do aftermarket service. I think there's some unique opportunities. I think that's the way I really look at this. And as HCLSoftware, we've got all the building block capabilities where we can work in the market, which is what we're doing currently to enable and scale.
So as a follow-up, KK, I mean, it does, and a very interesting thing emerges, right? Mm-hmm. See, there is product and work being produced in Africa all across the world. Right?
Yep.
And commerce in its current form is taking shape there. Right?
Yep.
So, do you sense an opportunity? And Aloysius, I'd like you to chime in on that, and Dario, your thoughts, and Chanchar as well. Do you see an opportunity for creating a marketplace, something along the lines of ONDC and infrastructure of that nature, so that people who do not have access to main trunk lines of trade can actually make directly their products and services available all across the world? And so I would like to get your thoughts on this, because there are parts of the world wherein such infrastructure is being created, and would like to hear from you and Aloysius yourself.
So, in a very clear terms, there are two parts of the problem, Rajiv, correct? The complex part of the problem is to set up a commerce infrastructure. The second is how do you then build, monetize, and I think there is enough talent, enough entrepreneurial intent within the entire, whether it's French-speaking Africa, English-speaking Africa, Sub-Saharan, the whole market. There's this lot of motivation, a lot of energy, a lot of new. So I think what we really could do is, because traditionally transaction platforms are designed for Western economies, trade economies, so you need to really tweak. So basically the core engines of how do you do marketplace, how do you do storefronts, how do you do D2C, how do you create someone who's an artisan, handicraft, someone who's creating stuff, but just give them access to the consumer on the other right side. So I think there is enough capability which can be turned on. So I think we have to pivot the way we build software, pivot the way we architect and build the commerce infrastructure. That can then really create entrepreneurs like Aloysius talked about to be able to really thrive and innovate. So I think absolutely yes.
Sorry.
No, that's what I want to get your view, because if you solve the underlying problem, what's the opportunity which can be created?
Yeah, infrastructure plus training can be transformational for both the continent, but then there's also the business, right? And I benefited from that like greatly. 11 years ago, when we started Farmerline, it was in a boot camp, and in that boot camp, they were teaching us how to build for mobile. But then there was all these frameworks and frameworks where you can write code on a web language, and you can ship it on and deploy on Android and iOS, right? So that's just one example. 15 years ago, I paid my own fees through school because someone invented a way for you to build a website like WordPress. WordPress came about 15 or 16 years ago, and you can build a website in one day. So I was literally doing that, changing the code, changing the colors, selling it to people, making money. So I created a business from that, and many more people did that as well. Google, platforms, right? Now we are at the age of large language models. people, like you're right. We have internet. We have people who have access to computer. We have the brain power. We have the enthusiasm. People want to learn. They are now seeing a lot of examples of people creating companies. They want to do it, but they just don't, they don't have the know-how right now. If there's a player that comes into the market with like very easy to use, like you said, low code infrastructure, whatever it is, it could be, it could be for large language model, it could be for payment, it could be for anything at all. Plus training, like the boot camp. Because when I went to my boot camp, our idea was the best. Guess how much we got, as a prize money? $600. And we've grown since then, like, created a lot of jobs, so just to say that, like, anyone that is able to use that approach, it worked 15 years ago. I think it will even like catch a lot of fire now, because there are not a lot of players that are currently doing this on the ground right now as we speak.
Thank you, Aloysius. Yeah, sorry, John.
No, just to add to that, we can also resume it's about we talk about experience also, and in Africa perspective, I think that Africa needs a body or a sponsor for this type of challenge. Someone like, I can take the example of India. He was in the same place in year 19th. There was young population, hungry people, and tech perspective to move to another level. And for me, Africa needs this type of body or sponsor, or India or another country, to help them to go through this, to transform these opportunities.
100%.
Great.
Well, one thing that I would like in terms of the market opportunity for commerce within Africa and outside of Africa, there is absolutely no lack of talent or opportunity in the marketplace. There are examples in Kenya, for example, where a telco company, I will not mention it, makes millions of dollars by selling ringtones, right? And you can find in the mobile chain huge amount of businesses that are developed on the back of telcos in Africa, because there are no skills or infrastructure to build these massive commerce platforms, right? But agreeing with Shankar and the skills discussion, if Africa had the skills and the economical support and the backbone to make it run, there is absolutely not lack of ideas and market opportunity in Africa. It's in excess.
Yeah, Dario, I move to this subject of sustainability, right? If an Eisenhower system of roadways was required to drive commerce in United States, I mean, an equivalent Eisenhower system on digital can be transformative to get products and services from all across to the world, right? What do you see has been, and we have points of presence across the continent, what do you see as HCL's approach to sustainability in Africa?
Sustainability we have participated over the last few years on several projects. I will describe the more humanistic projects first, and then the digital projects second. From a humanistic perspective and social perspective, we contributed to climate actions, more than 17 projects, 10 to reduce digital inequalities, life online, more than 15 projects, and 17 projects on partnerships and alliances, right? Building trees in Africa, planting trees in Africa, and much more. But there is this, the example of the Eisenhower system in the US. The Eisenhower digital backbone of Africa does not exist, right? It enters from a few strategic geographical points in Africa, but that creates a lot of inequality or digital inequality in many countries that don't have that highway potential of that digitalization. Yes, they do it through mobility, but they don't do it through fast speed communication. So companies like ours are developing these strategies that, from a sustainability perspective, digitalization and digital economy are kind of the open door for this project. I will mention just a few. The first one is security. No security, massively expensive to run anything. You put an infrastructure, you get hacked on your infrastructure or your company, you take 5 steps back, right? Costly, inefficient, expensive. You emit more carbon just to get out of that mess. Number one. Number two, data centers. They're not there today, right? But the thinking is, and the opportunity is on how technology companies start building according to the sustainable agenda of the local countries to make sure that in the next 5 years, which is going to grow more than 5 times, 15% compound annual growth in Africa in terms of sustainability expectations, where companies need to think about what is the demand potential from a digitalization perspective and how that consumption will impact the massive amount of data that is going to start flowing into Africa with the digital backbone. And the last one is how technology impacts directly the core two resources of any African country today that are core to human dependency, right? Healthcare, number one. Number two, water distribution. Number three, electricity distribution. Without those three, basically you keep paralyzed the core of Africa, right? From a digital perspective and from a human perspective. And those three need a complete rethinking strategically on how companies will take that approach on how do you improve water distribution through smarter cities projects? How are you going to make more efficient the electricity distribution? And how are you going to make the entire healthcare system more efficient? Because today, lack of communication means lives.
Thank you, Dario. I mean, we were a little late starting, but I think we should finish on time. So, we've been talking about some core ideas and thoughts. So, in the context of where you stand, how do you see the next 5 years? This is open to all of you. Aloysius, in terms of entrepreneurship and opportunity for new businesses, KK from the point of view of tech and adoption and building resource pools and adoption of digital technologies in Africa.
Let me.
And John Short and.
So let me go first. I think what we need is, first of all, we all need to acknowledge that Africa is a continent. It's not a country. Second, there is the next level of segmentation is there is one language, which is business language. It could be, you can say, French and English, but each country has a lot of local language dialects, correct? There's a lot of uniqueness. So first of all, to get into this environment, you have to be able to create partnerships with so many entrepreneurs. Like that, there will be enough tech, IT services. Exactly goes back to how IT services emerged in India or in the US market or other places. Can we find MSPs? Can we find IT partners in each country in those regions whom we enable with the technology because they understand the localities of the market? So Africa needs to be thought through as a big continent with a lot of unique demand, how we can enable skilling, capability, and provide the foundational technology for them to then start to deliver a managed services highly configured to the demands of that region, correct? That or that country, the sub-region. That's the most foundational thing which has to happen in the next 5 years. Then everything else on top of that, Rajiv, is a programmable highway, correct? But I think that foundational aspect is what we need to build.
Yeah, very well put, KK. Very well put. Thank you.
I think there'll be more tech and investment going into other non-traditional sectors beyond like health, ag tech, and fintech. I think people will put money and they'll come with more innovations into like things like construction. I'm personally very interested in putting money into construction because it's so fascinating that no matter what is happening in the world, people still spend money on iron rod and cement, and they either want to renovate or they want to build. People spend. Yeah. People also want to marry, whatever wedding. People save money. They make poor financial decisions. Well, they make financial decisions during that time. So there's a lot of opportunity to monetize that place. I think there'll be more investment going there. I think media and entertainment. Every time I go to a restaurant and I buy like a cocktail, I'm calculating the margin, and it's like 300-400%. I think there'll be a lot of innovation and investment going into that sector in the next 5 years. I think we'll see some exits too. So, people like us, people who are building businesses, may sell some of their stakes and they'll have some money, and then they will also invest back into new companies. Mm-hmm. I also think that governments will start positioning themselves, to participate in the world that is creating, because now they are not generating any income from it. They are just watching it passively, and they will talk about it at Davos and all these places, but they are not actually taxing, right? So there are people in Ghana that got jobs with Microsoft and all that, They get full salary, no tax. Government has no visibility over all those things. I think they will need technology and they will need partners that will help them to generate income for the country from, technology. And I do think that government will start looking at tech as an avenue for job creation. Actually, there's a session that is happening right now with the president of Rwanda in one of the domes where they're talking about technology and job creation. So it's already happening. I know for sure my country, both current government and then the opposition and then the current government, they are looking for a tech partner to help them to train, millions of tech people, millions of coders across the country, which basically means that they want to partner with someone who has a great digital infrastructure to be able to conduct more training. Google did that with fiber optics in Ghana and some other African countries, and we all use it right now. The mobile networks use it. They make a lot of money. The government makes money. Everybody wins. I think the next, they are looking for another platform tech company, service provider that they can work with to create jobs, to form a win-win partnerships. Is happening, and I think more and more of this will be happening in the next few years.
Thank you, Aloysius.
I mean, a lot of things was resumed, but in my perspective, I think that IEA will help a lot of government to understand what is the best way, and companies also, to invest in Africa, to understand the market, like KK say, how diverse is the market of Africa. I think this is something, it's a lack today. People don't understand how Africa is, with a lot of culture, a lot of language, different market, and EA will help a lot. More EA in Africa in 5 years. And from market perspective, I think that agriculture, because the world need that,
for sure.
Market expansion. Africa will have this capability to expand its market. Also in the natural resources, we see that Africa don't use a lot his own resources. And in the 5 years coming, Africa will be in the top of this construction based on these resources, more intelligent also in I can say in the education, because we talk about young population, we also need to talk about ATech. ATech is also the pillar that Africa need to bring more and more skills on this young population. I think that in 5 years we have more experts in technology, and we can talk about also government perspective. The government will, for me, ready to be open in the world and pitch about this digital economic helpful, that they help them to be more open.
Thank you, John Short.
Yeah, I think to make it very simple, I think that Africa is coming from being a passive player in IT to an active player in IT in the next 5 years. I think that technology has grown to a point where the greenfield that Africa represents with the right skills, and hopefully there is going to be a huge amount of investment from governments on skilling up and tech companies to skill up the younger generations. AI is going to help tremendously. Low code, no code, AI. These are technologies that are going to help Africa basically become an active player in technology, because there's no lack of ideas. It's just basically lack of investment in the last few years or the infrastructure to make it happen.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen, for absolutely enlightening conversation. There are several subjects that we can continue to talk about when it comes to this, and KK, you say it so aptly, that so often we end up making a mistake to look at Africa as one integrated block. There is nuances associated with every area of the economy and diversity and change. But there is absolutely no denying the fact that it's a young population, it's a big population, the economy as a whole is large. And as a unified trading bloc, it does provide tremendous amount of opportunity. And I think Africa also has a significant amount of leverage, because to a lot of businesses it appears like an untapped market, and therefore there can be a give to get kind of a opportunity that the African nations enjoy, that come and invest in our people, come and invest in our infrastructure, and then there is a business to be done there. So that is the core of our philosophy at HCLSoftware. We believe that there is significant opportunity for us to look at business very differently in Africa, so that like the way we are building win-win partnerships with our clients in the Western world, how do we build win-win partnerships with societies in Africa, wherein we bring in elements of sustainability, inclusion, aspects of diversity and engagement of a lot of people in helping them build and helping them build a future which is extremely bright. Thank you again. It has been enlightening.
Thank you, Rajiv.
For the audience, Sasha.
Sure. I think the point about the nuance, right, and localizing platforms, right? Because you have to have domestic relevance. At the end
Yep.
of the day. So, what's your view on that? How much to invest domestically in a particular community? Do you have to weigh? What makes up a strategic market for you, and how much do you decide to invest to be domestically relevant?
So I think that's what I brought the point that it has to be a B2B2C model. We need to bring the technology and identify a partner in that country who understands context, who understands localization, and we can give them that 80% of capability which is needed to jumpstart. But that, like if you go into Ghana, correct, or if you from Nigeria, correct, or into why not? We've got engagements going on in Madagascar, correct, with some telcos, correct. You have to contextualize, but I think the core technology, they still need MarTech, they still need ComTech, they still need low code. But how they're going to apply into that context is that's the reason. Rather than a company trying to go and say, I'm going to do this, if we can curate a network, and that's the reason for Africa, for us, is a partner-first strategy. We are curating and working with our partner team to really identify partners whom we can enable. And what we need to do is we need to invest in the partner so that then they can monetize and start to build a model. So it cannot be the traditional way that you buy stuff from me and then do that. It has to be built in a very different way that let's co-innovate, let's co-invest. You bring in people, skills, capabilities, we bring the technology, and then you monetize and create a model where the revenue starts to come in, and then hence it cannot have stock market-led mindset that I need quarter on quarter this to be extracted if you want to play into the African. It has to be built in a little bit long-term way, and that's what we believe that as we start and build a partner-first model, that's the right model to go. So that's our strategic vision, that we will invest in HCLSoftware with partners in the markets, and then we expand from there.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate the way that you're thinking out of the box, and you are looking at opportunities coming from many different directions. I have two comments. So now one is about government. In this area of very rapidly moving technology, government is not a leader. Governments are behind the curve, and they are putting out there a lot of obstacles there.
Yep.
So part of the picture has to be to overcome them. And also the nation state here is, I think you touch upon this very nicely. It is an artificial fabric, and Africa is a continent, and there are many different barriers. National markets are important, but you have to overcome the national barriers. Now then I wanted to flag that we are assisting a young African team that is now preparing for a search engine for Africa, managing the African language. There are like 3,000
Yep.
languages in Africa. It will go live next month. It's already been tested with hundreds of thousands of users. It works. It has drawn back, a soccer player, 50 million followers on social media, part of the team. And it will also be very strongly emphasizing sustainable development. It's not just having the search, but it's connecting with the users becoming active, empowering them, observing issues, and come with ideas, and also cherry pick, projects that they want to be funded out of the revenue flows that will be realized through this platform. The name is Mayan, and it's presented tomorrow in the workshop that we have.
Oh, lovely.
So if you're interested in it, I'll be very happy.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Shanchar, you
Yeah.
should definitely, we will make sure we connect
Yeah.
up. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. it is very good to hear from people like you that endorse the way we are looking at this opportunity. I mean, we are a young software company of 4 years and 5 years, and therefore it presents us an opportunity to do things differently. And at Africa to us is an opportunity wherein there's not too much of traditional way of doing business that has crept in. So therefore we see a very large opportunity to resonate with the market because of the way in which we deal with the market. So
Thank
yeah. But thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.